Hey guys, this is about to be my first YouTube video, so if you guys have any ideas for maybe something I could do better or something I should just elaborate on in a future video, make sure to let me know in the comments because I have a lot more coming and a lot more plans. So, ever since I was 13 or so, because yes, I thought about philosophy when I was 13, one thing I've always believed is that nothing can have value if nothing is there to experience it. So, naturally, value must be a part of consciousness. It has to be an experience. And while I still believe this to be true and honestly can't come up with a single good counterargument for it, it's actually kind of misleading. Most of the things that objectively improve our experiences are ultimately fleeting and kind of meaningless. They kind of just happen, and you sort of have to just trust them to be important to you. Moreover, your brain carefully regulates your neurotransmitters, often making it difficult to achieve actual objective gains in your emotional state over the long term. We have this way of thinking about the world that seems so irrefutable and sensible, but it's just insane. It's the idea that everything just has to be better and then life will be good. We sort all of the things that can occur or exist into good or bad, and this is generally the entire basis of our moral systems. And maybe this helps people to maintain order in their heads, but at the end of the day, it ignores the fact that life isn't just a bunch of things that happen to you. It's not just a bunch of things that are either good or bad. In fact, I've been talking so much about life that you probably forgot that the word life derives from a verb. Life is just living. I know that sounds kind of dumb, but it's really more than just a grammar thing. It's the fact that animals are evolved to prevent satisfaction, to prevent inaction. We can't be too happy, and we always have to hurt sometimes, even if nothing's wrong, so we keep acting. We keep living, always having to solve more problems, even if there aren't any. To compound this, because of people's need to indefinitely improve everything, everything just gets made into a competition. Basically, our brain chemistry and society itself collectively make life a game. The truth is that no matter how good or bad things are, your brain will coerce you to treat life as a process. And this brings me to my point. Life doesn't have to be good per se because it's just a game. It should have good gameplay. The game of it is what we're bound to. And this, in my opinion, is a big part of what makes value a subjective thing. Because good gameplay is whatever you want it to be. Granted, there's tons of similarities between what that means to different people, but just look at video games, for instance. When you look at all the video games people play, from Call of Duty and Fortnite to Minecraft and Roblox to Fall Guys and Among Us, it's people who just don't play any of them. It's evident that a lot of it just comes down to preference. But real life isn't just like Super Smash Bros. You can't just pick from like 80 plus different characters that are all viable and then come up with 50 different ways to use each of them. You've maybe a couple of good options, and if you don't pick them and play them a certain way, you'll just fall behind. Real life isn't real life isn't like building a Minecraft world. You can't just load in, build whatever you want, design everything the way you want it to be, express anything you want. You have to adhere to other people's design standards and fulfill their goals to make a living. In real life, you can't just load up in squads fill whenever you don't want to deal with your problems alone. Most of it's just solos, and boring solos at that. Real life is not that great of a game, and most people do not want to play it with you. Real life doesn't even come close to any of it. If I'm gonna be honest, a lot of the IRL gameplay isn't great. And it's not the kind of thing you can just write off as being not that big of a deal. Really, it means just as much as any form of pain or comfort. Really, it was all up to you to decide what you wanted for yourself in the first place. And so I'll ask, does life even have to be that good if you have real freedom? Does life have to be that good if you aren't in it by yourself? Does life have to be that good if there's meaning behind what you're doing? This is the void in our souls that we keep trying to fill with all these little improvements and accomplishments. This is the void that drives the rampant, destructive consumerism in our society. This is the void that perpetuates itself, that keeps spreading itself around until everyone forgets where it actually came from. And so they keep feeding into it. I'd say this trinity of I'd say the trinity of freedom, purpose, and community just makes life so much better from a gameplay perspective, but it's so sad to see how often it gets thrown by the wayside in favor of other things. And I'm perplexed by the reality that nobody thinks of life from a gameplay perspective, but rather from, I guess, a more moralistic sort of perspective, you could say. So, allow me to partially debunk this way of thinking. If much of life's value is based on the gameplay, then where does that leave morality? Sure, morality is a good tool to promote good gameplay, but at the end of the day, it cannot really in itself provide life's value. You can't just sum up the value of everything with a moral judgment. Given this premise, I'm suggesting morality is only a way to facilitate what's important, not the embodiment of it. Because morality is itself a game, and I really hate to break it to you, but the gameplay sucks balls. So, so what are the implications of this exactly? What does it say about everything? What does it mean if things don't actually have to be better, if it's more just in the game of it? And really it implies a lot. I'll get into some more of the implications of it in other videos, but I really think it might have a lot to say about the internet. Because if you think about the internet in terms of the three things I mentioned earlier, it clearly connects people and gives them loads of freedom, but there's not necessarily much of a purpose to it. But then again, why not? What gives the material world so much more weight if we aren't physically deprived, if our problems aren't even material problems? What if we just needed to fill the void with something substantial so we wouldn't feel the need to keep causing more problems? If the gameplay itself is so valuable, why can't that just be our purpose? Just some just some food for thought, I guess. Some juicy sushi for your brain, if you will. Is it real? Is it real?